Hello and welcome to our practical lesson on YAML. In our last lesson, we have learned the fundamentals of YAML. Now, let's put that knowledge to work with the practical lesson. Get ready to write some YAML code. Let's start with a basic grocery list. So let's create a new file and name it grocery_list.yaml. So here on my Ansible virtual machine, I will go to the shared directory between Vagrant and virtual machine, and this directory, as we mentioned before, is the examples directory. So let's execute cd examples, and let's now create the grocery_list.yaml. Now press enter, and as you can see, the file now shown inside the examples directory. So let's click the file name so that we can edit the file in Visual Studio. The first thing we will do here is to type 3 dashes, and that's how all YAML files begin. Now let's name our list, so let's type grocery_items. Now let's go to a new line. Let's ident twice. Now add a hyphen, then space, and type print. Each new item follows the same pattern: indent, hyphen, space, and the item name. Let's add a few more groceries. Let's say, for example, eggs, milk, and apples. Don't forget to save the file. Now we have created a simple list in YAML. So we have a list of grocery items. Let's move on and see how we can create a nested structures. So let's organize some servers with YAML. Let's create a new file named inventory.yml. To create a file, I will execute touch, then inventory.yml. Let's open the file. Again, start with 3 dashes. Let's go to the new line and type all. And on the next line, indent twice. Then type hosts. Now let's add a web server. So go to a new line, indent twice, then type web server 1, and to a new line, indent twice, and let's type Ansible_host, then space, and let's bring the IP of our target virtual machine. So let's go to VM1 terminal and type IPA, and here is my IP, or the IP for the VM1, which is our web server 1. Let's do the same for another web server 2, and a database server, DB server. So here I will add web server 2, then Ansible_host, then the IP of web server 2, which is 192.168.56.102. Then let's add our database server, which will be DB server, then Ansible_host, then the IP of DB server, which is 192.168.56.103. So now we have created our inventory file, which we will use later in this lesson to execute an Ansible playbook. Mistakes happen, so let's install YAML lint to catch YAML errors. So from the terminal, let's first install the YAML lint using sudo apt install YAML lint. Now press enter, and as you can see, YAML lint is already installed on this virtual machine. Now to check our files, type YAML lint, then grocery_list.yaml. As you can see from the output, I have 2 errors. The first one is wrong new line character expected /n, and the second error is no new line character at the end of file. So let's fix this one. So I will go to grocery list, then I will take a new line at the end of the file. And I will save the file. Let's execute the YAML lint grocery underscore list.yaml file again. As you can see now, I managed to fix the second error. So right now I only have one error, which is wrong new line character expected /n. I will not fix this error because it's not an error, it's a matter of best practice. So let's execute YAML lint with our inventory. And as you see also, I have the same errors, wrong new line character expected /n, and no new line character at the end of file. Most of the errors are not actually errors, they are just a matter of best practice. So we can ignore them. Now let's go to inventory and let's make a mistake here in the indentation. Now let's execute YAML lint inventory.yaml file again. And as you can see, now I have two more errors, wrong indentation expected 4 but found 6, and syntax error expected block end but found block mapping start. So those are a series errors, and with this kind of error, Ansible will not be able to execute our playbooks. So let's fix the indentation here, and let's verify that by executing YAML lint inventory.yaml. Now we are good to go. Now let's apply YAML in Ansible context. So it's time for Ansible magic. Create a file named install underscore package.yaml. So let's execute touch install underscore package.yml. Now we have our install package.yaml file. We can edit it. Let's start with the 3 dashes. Now let's get specific. So let's write -hosts, then web server 1, because I want to execute this playbook only on web server 1. A new line, then become true. This lets Ansible work with root permissions. Now let's tell Ansible how to connect. So let's go to a new line and let's type vars, then our variable will be for Ansible SSH private key file. So let's type Ansible underscore SSH underscore private underscore key underscore file. Then the path to the private key we will use to communicate with web server 1. So our private key in the home directory of user vagrant, then SSH directory, then ID underscore RSA. Let's verify that we have this key here. So let's type ls, then the path we provided to install package.yaml file. As you can see, the file already exists. Now let's provide our first task. So here I will type tasks, then our task name is install nginx, and don't forget to add a space between the hyphen and the name. Now we will use the YAML module, and we will talk about Ansible modules in future lessons. For now, just know that we are using YAML module with Ansible to manage packages on Red Hat family. Now we need to provide the package name. So I will type here the name of the package, which is nginx. Then the state, which is latest. And latest here means that I want the latest version of nginx. Don't worry about the syntax here we used with the YAML module like name and state, because we will explain all of this in details in our future lessons. Now let's test it out. So let's save the file, and from the terminal I will type Ansible playbook, then -i, and I will provide our inventory, which is inventory.yaml file, then the name of the playbook we want to execute, which is install underscore package.yaml file. So what will happen? What will happen is that Ansible will execute this playbook on web server 1 to install Nginx. Let's press enter. Now Ansible has finished its work on web server 1. So as you see here, it executed the playbook on web server 1 and it installed Nginx, and we can confirm that by the change here. So it means that there is some changes happened on web server 1, and here we don't see any failed, so it's a good sign that our playbook did its job. Now let's verify that on virtual machine 1, which is the web server 1 virtual machine. Now let's type sudo systemctl status nginx, and from the output you can see that we have a service with the name nginx. Right now it's inactive, which means that this service is not running on web server 1. For sure you can add more tasks here to enable the service and also to run the Nginx service. We will see all of this in details in the future lessons. For this lesson, we don't need more than how to deal with YAML files, how to write YAML files, and how to execute a simple Ansible playbook. And by installing Nginx on web server 1 using Ansible, we get to the end of our lesson. Thank you for watching and see you in the next.